Welcome to Pop Culture Retro, which was recently voted the 15th best podcast by the residents of the Golden Years Retirement Community in Boca Raton, Florida. Each show, we'll revisit some of your favorite pop culture memories with insider and outsider perspectives. Now, please help me welcome your hosts, Ike Eisenmann and Jonathan Rosen.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of Pop Culture Retro. I'm one of your hosts, Jonathan Rosen, along with the man who served 3 consecutive years as the president of the Katie Saylor fan club, Ike Eisenmann. Ike, how are you today?
I'm well, and I'm so sorry to say I was also the only member. At least back in those days. Oh my gosh. I think we've given her too hard a time.
I told you it still is my mission to try to find Katie Saylor and have her on the show one day.
All right. Well, we certainly could make up for a lot of
yes. I want to have a dual Katie Saylor, Melissa Sue Anderson show.
There you go. Absolutely. I love it.
Well, today I'm very excited. We've been talking about doing this for a while, and I've wanted to do this for a while. We're going to have a show dedicated to time travel. It's my favorite genre of movies. My favorite, and said it many times, my favorite movie all time is Back to the Future. And I want you to know that, one of the cliches in time travel movies is, always don't go back and change things. 100% I would. There's no doubt in my mind that I would be going back and changing certain things. And the hell with the timeline, the hell with consequences. I would go back and change things. But anyway, let's go.
But you're self-righteous, so there it goes.
Well, yes.
You think you know how it should have been done.
Well, exactly. The thing like, I'm not going to make that same mistake again. I'm not going to ask that person out from prom. I'm not going to do these things. There are certain things that I would definitely go back and change. So, well, you're not a big. You don't love it as much as I do, from what I understand, of what I gather.
Well, I can say I don't love it as much as you, but in looking over the time travel movies on my list, and the ones that I picked out, they're movies I love. So I kind of can't not love the genre, the subgenre is, and if I love the movies, and yes, Back to the Future, I knew that was going to be the picture behind you. Of course, it's at the top of my list. I think it's the most fun and most interesting.
We can't even talk about Back to the Future. So much because it's the obvious one. It's like it should be on the top of everyone's list as
exactly
the time travel movie.
But also with the very best title of all time. Back to the Future is just it's so intriguing on its own. It's now become, when it's so much a part, when titles or names or brand names or whatever become like such a part of the vernacular that you don't think about them anymore. But when I stepped back for a moment and just looked at it, I said, it's Back to the Future. It's a perfect synopsis of the whole film. And so, but it's also playful, and that's okay when it's playful to me, because I just go through that whole stinking thing that I keep bringing up all the time is I really like a reality basis in my premises for science fiction. And so it's hard for me when I've read too many books on physics and Stephen Hawking and how he so casually says how much he enjoys science fiction and the idea of interspace travel and time travel, that it's not possible. It's not possible in any way. And of course, the caveat to that is, well, we just don't have the technology yet, right? We just don't have the technology yet. Maybe one day we will. And so, but to your point about going back and changing things, I think my first experience as a young open mind, as a teenager, exposing myself to all kinds of new things that I was reading, I became a Ray Bradbury fan. And I remember reading in, and I can't remember what collection it's from, but the short story, they tried to make a movie out of it that I actually never saw, but the short story,
saw the movie.
A Sound of Thunder.
So I saw that movie.
Yes. Yeah. And I don't know, maybe you can comment on it after I tell my story, because I didn't see it. I don't know if it's any good or not, but I remember I remember that so much of this time travel tour, hunting, big game hunting trip concept was about killing a T-Rex or a large carnivorous dinosaur, going back in time and having a chance to do that, and how all of the story was pretty much about the preparation for this and how you have to be so careful because you can't change things. One broken weed can have this, they call it, and I don't know if he coined it or if it's coined before that, the butterfly effect, and how it moves through the future and changes things. And of course, at the end, one of the hunters has an accident, steps on a butterfly, finds it on his boot at the end, and the entire, world has changed when he gets back, much to the negative. And I found that such an intriguing idea and story. But it wasn't until I got more cynical later where I said, okay, so now how do you actually, what is this device? And it's always this vague kind of machine or something with spinning lights and dials where you, like in, H.G. Wells' The Time Machine, where you just sort of crank it up to a particular year and you just go there, like on Google Maps. It's just is so I have to suspend my disbelief past that, and then I can have fun with it. But I have favorites on the list that we will go through that actually do a better job of all of that, to my thinking, than a lot of others. But
I was waiting for you to finish, because I'm going to say that I watch so many time travel documentaries with the opposite point of view, how that it's possible, that we're not close, but that it's possible. And and when someone says, like, oh, it's not possible, I shut off that documentary because I don't want to see it. But but I do watch many things. And
you don't tolerate time travel deniers, is what I'm getting
exactly. And I would love to have someone on one time that that talks about these things. But I have seen it, Sound of Thunder, because back in the day I taught English for many years, and we had a Bradbury section, high school English. And one of the stories that we covered was Sound of Thunder. So there is a movie, as you said. It's a fun movie. It's a schlocky movie. The special effects are not great, but it's fun. And that's what happens. So they go back on this, T-Rex hunt. They step on the butterfly, and all of a sudden the whole world changes. They come back, and there are like these, ape-like creatures like attacking, and overgrown plants everywhere, the earthquakes, things. So they have changed. They have changed things. It was definitely a fun movie. I recommend people watch it just for the fun value of it. But yeah, I am pretty sure that what you said, the butterfly effect, was coined from that story, I think.
Yeah.
But it does, make sense from there. But they show the stepping on the butterfly too. They do show that in the movie. So, but
it's always engaged thinking people. I mean, a Connecticut Yankee, King Arthur's Court.
Yes.
I mean, it's Mark Twain and I've never read that, but that is a time travel
right.
story. So we've been fascinated by it forever. But I think primarily because of your point, do you change the past to affect the future more positively? And at the same time, and we know this endlessly just about human nature. What one person thinks is right doesn't necessarily make it right. And so you have that struggle of the free will of the past as it has spilled out. Do we really have a right to go even change an evil person's sense of free will? Because you think of all these horrendous historical things that have occurred because people have taken actions and made decisions and had ideas that were horrendous, and somehow eliminating them would change everything for the better. But you also think about all the incredible good that has come out of the sad, tragic fallout of these situations as well. So you can't have it both ways when you play this game. If you were to play it for real, you just can't have it both ways.
Sure. I mean, but that's always what you said. That's always the scenario that they give you. You go back in time and kill Hitler. And, you know, I kind of think,
who I was referencing very
right,
vaguely,
of course.
but
I mean,
obviously,
I'm going to think, I probably would. I don't know how the world would be today had that happened. You're saying, agreed, because we don't know what the ramifications of that. A lot of other things happen because of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are certain things, you know, not just for the frivolous things I would do. You have to think about it too. But then, as you're playing God, and you shouldn't be doing that. We're going on a moral thing instead of the entertainment thing.
I know, but you know, hey, what the hell?
Yes. But the fun thing is there are different genres, even within the time travel. There are different subgenres of it. You know, there are the comedies, there are the dramas, there are the romantic comedies, the romance ones, and I'm there for all of them. Just I really, there are so many. I look at all these things that I loved. So many of these movies and not all of them were great, but I did love most of them just because I love that genre.
Yeah, I know. I mean, some of my favorites and making my list, because I know you're going to ask me for the Mount Rushmore at the end of the show, which is not going to be easy to do. But I had to sort of break it up into three categories, like my top ones that I love, and then the honorable mentions, because they just, I mean, they should work their way into the list, but if you got to make a cut, you got to make a cut. And then there are the funny ones, and yes, the romance ones, and all of that. I found that I like more of these films that I want to give the genre credit for. I just like it when it's when the filmmaker or the writers help me suspend my disbelief as much as possible. And therefore it allows me to have more fun on the ride.
Well, do you need to know this? You see, I think we're different in that, because you need to know the science behind it in order to enjoy the movie. No,
I don't need someone to build me the science, but they've got to build me a machine that's plausible, or a device. I say device, I mean storytelling device that makes things somewhat plausible. And I think the more time you spend on it, probably the less effective it is. And you know, and so therefore, whoever's most gifted at coming up with that device, whether it's a physical device of the story or just the story device itself, the better I like it, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, I don't know if you've seen this movie. I'm going to talk about it's in the romantic comedy genre, time travel genre. So I'm going to say, have you ever seen Midnight in Paris?
Yes. And you know what? I should have put that on my list. I love that movie.
Me too. I love that movie. It is one of my favorite movies.
And see, and there the device is simple. It's like he's just sitting there and a car pulls up. It's like, okay, you don't have, there's no science behind it. There's no reason behind it. It just happens, like some wrinkle in the universe. And you're dead on. I think that's probably one of the very best ones, period. And you know, like, love or hate Woody Allen these days, the man is a freaking storytelling genius in his ability to dig into, you know, the characters, the period dialogue and thinking and concepts.
And Owen Wilson was fantastic in that.
He is, because he does that pie-eyed thing so incredibly well. I love that. I love that movie. And I didn't even think of it.
No, that's exactly, to me, not all the time travel movies have like all the science behind it. Just like you said, a car just takes him into the past. The car pulls up and he's in the past. You know. Well,
I'll bring up my example of that, which doesn't make any of the lists that I looked up. Midnight in Paris didn't show up on my lists, the list that I looked at either. But this one did not either, and it's a particular favorite of mine, although I find it harder to watch these days. It's Slaughterhouse-Five.
I've never seen that.
Okay, then you need to watch it. Okay. It's a brilliant film. It's an amazing film. It's just kind of a hard film to watch because you spend chunks of the time in Nazi Germany, you know, obviously during the war. But the lead character, who's another one of these kind of like doe-eyed innocents that just gets yanked into all these different situations, He ultimately becomes a writer, and he's trying to write the story of his life. And it literally starts with the typewriter opening up and the keys pounding out. How the beginning of his, essentially his memoir, the story of his life, is that he's unstuck in time. So at any given moment, he could bounce to any different time in his life, and then that's where the story picks up. It could be his childhood, it could be his future, distant future, it could be World War II, it could be to his middle life in Middletown, America, and then all these different storylines converge throughout the course of the film, consequently the book as well. But obviously, because it was first, it's a Kurt Vonnegut novel. But he just, and there's no reason, there's no reason, no explanation for why this happens to him. It just happens. And so he goes back into these different situations, and he doesn't necessarily do anything to affect a change in the future. It's just that he lives his life inside out and completely out of order. And it's really, really, really fascinating, amazing filmmaking. Because I think I should have looked up the date of the film, because it was made back in the 70s, and they reproduce massive scale, bombed out cities, the city area that I, as someone who, of course, involved in the industry, I look at that and I say, how on earth did they do this? And I have no idea. I've never researched it. I would love to, but honestly, it's really, really, really worth watching. But as I said, it didn't show up on any of the other lists, and so I wanted to make sure I included it in this discussion.
I'm upset this is a time travel movie that I've not seen.
Well, there you go. Hey, hope I made your day.
Yes. No, there are several here that I've not seen, but I'll go back quickly. Just the subgenre, the romantic comedy ones. I just want to name a few that I loved every single one of them. We said Midnight in Paris. There's Kate and Leopold. I don't know if you've seen that with Hugh Jackman,
I've not.
Meg Ryan. There's About Time, which is a British romantic comedy, which is that one also. At the end of it, I won't spoil it for you, but I've seen it several times, and every single time at the end of that movie, I'm teary-eyed because of something that happens. It's a familial thing, and I'll say it has to do with him and his father. Gets me every single time.
I'm a sucker for those. So.
Oh, and then of course there's the one, Somewhere in Time, the Christopher Reeve.
Time, yeah.
Great, I love that movie, and that's another one that there's no rhyme or reason to the science.
Exactly.
Behind it.
Exactly. Yes, and no, that's a huge favorite in this household, as well. I think it's a lovely film, and it also is just another example of what a really good actor Christopher Reeve was. He did so many things, but you sort of stick in your head that he was Superman, and you kind of leave him there until you see another, a film, a really good film that he's done. And I think that's one of them, because it's just, it's angry, full of anguish and all kinds of things. And I really enjoy it. Yeah.
It's funny then, just sidetrack there with Christopher Reeve. Back then, he was like typecast as Superman, and he had trouble, you always read that he had trouble getting these other parts or whatever. And I don't think the same thing happens today. I think people can go back and forth playing these characters without worrying about the typecasting as much now.
Well, they certainly try to. They do their best. It's part of the strategy of stardom. And I don't want to. How do I want to bring this up? When you look at the Harry Potter actors, Daniel Radcliffe, I mean, he's done so many other movies, but nothing that's really broken out. That's gotten him far enough away from Harry Potter that we don't see Harry Potter.
She has, though,
anymore.
Emma Watson.
I haven't really seen anything else that she's done. So
really?
yeah. But I mean, but that's part of the curse of success in this business. You got to find a way to, because I always say this, people say life is short, and I say no, life is very long. And especially when you had as successful a childhood career as those performers did, you've got the rest of your life, and you've got to kind of figure out, if you're going to stay in this, how are you going to remold yourself, and how are you going to turn it into something else. And it's hard work. It's not easy, because it's not always accepted. And so you have to be very strategic, and sometimes, like a Reese Witherspoon, create your own projects, and build
We're
on
going
it
to have
from
to do
there.
an episode on this.
Anyway.
We're going to have to ask you about childhood stardom things. I think we should, should have to do something on that. There's, I'll say, I love the comedy. I also love the comedy time travel ones. And another favorite of mine is in a brand that you're very familiar with. I love Star Trek 4.
Oh yeah.
It's
it's way up on my list. I love Star Trek 4, and it's the most ludicrous one on out there, as far as I'm concerned. It's
the whale.
It's like, yeah,
because of the whale aspect.
No, just, okay, come on. We fly around the sun backwards, and that's what takes us back in time. Do you know exactly how many times you have to go? How do you calculate this out? I'm sure Spock does it in his head, and with the help of the onboard computer. So it is a very flimsy premise to me, but the whole thing was so tongue-in-cheek and was so funny. I just said, you know what? I love this. I love it anyway. And I have to say, as much as I love Star Trek 2, just as a movie, I really, really like Star Trek 4. I love the whole thing, and bringing whales back. And I think it for me has one of the best commentaries about time travel of any story, period, of all movies. And that is when Scotty and Bones they're working with that manufacturing company, and they're trying to figure out how they can create a containment system to build inside of the Enterprise to hold enough water and hold the whales to take them back. He ends up giving this engineer the formula for transparent aluminum, right? This is the lightweight product that's going to be able to fix the job. And apparently the capability exists in, whatever year it was, 1985, in the United States, to manufacture this. And I think McCoy says to Scotty, gosh, aren't we messing with the future by giving him this formula? And he says, how do we know he didn't invent transparent aluminum? And they just nod and they walk away. And that moment for me, it's so funny, but it's also kind of poignant in a way, because this is going to come up in a couple other discussions in other movies. But I think I brought it up with you before. I don't know enough about like time travel tropes or catchphrases or terms or terminology, but I've always been fascinated by that very idea that there is some future technology that was developed, currently or in the past, that the only way that could be developed is because someone went back in time and left something behind, right? That's
Right.
either reverse engineered, or the formula for how you do this that they only learned about hundreds of years in the future, but it never would have gotten there if it hadn't been dropped in the past when they came back to the past. So there's this closed loop of the future as it is being guaranteed because something was brought back and left behind. And I like that idea because it makes me dizzy and I can't even explain it very well. So I don't know if there's a term for it. You, as the consummate author, would probably know more than me.
No, I do. I love all that stuff too. I love all the little, and part of the other thing again in Star Trek 4 was that line in I think what was the thing when he gives away like a watch or something, and he said like Shatner, Kirk gives away watch. He said like you got that for your birthday, and he said, and I will get it again. That was the beauty of it.
Oh yes, of course, right. Yeah. An antique, yeah, the antique, yeah.
Right. So
yeah.
I do love that stuff. And if we're gonna go, I'll mention different times. Some of the comedies, I'll love my favorites, and they might be up there on my list too. But you have watch with Bill and Ted.
Yes.
I love Hot Tub Time Machine. The stupidest premise. I've seen it so many times, just because besides time travel, it's going to the 80s, which is another big thing of mine. So I have the whole thing together in one movie, and I just love that movie. And it's raunchy and funny, and like I said, I've seen it probably more times than I should.
Okay, I'm only being quiet because I'm actually making notes.
Okay.
I keep meaning to write it down and watch this movie because you brought it up many times. I've never seen it, so I have to see it. But see, I've never seen Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure either.
You kill me with these. You sometimes you
kill
me. You surprise me.
I know. Well, there's that thing where I say if it doesn't draw me in, back when it's marketed, I probably won't watch it. And then I find I've saved myself a great deal of valuable time over the course of my adult life because now I get to revisit everything, and thank goodness for that, because then you get to hear other people say, how much they liked it or whatever. And then that pushes me into then watching these things that I've ever seen. But see, it's fun for me because there's all these movies out there that I haven't seen that I get to experience for the first time, and I can't wait.
And it's funny to me because I always like picture you like, oh, Mr. Movies has seen everything. And that's not the case.
No, not at all. No, I mean, as much as I love them, I'm a more discerning for me. I'm just a more discerning consumer. And yeah, I can't even be fooled sometimes when people I trust say they really like something, because half the time I watch it and I would like, oh goodness gracious, yeah, I know. Yeah,
all right, I could see the Hot Tub Time Machine because it came out
do it.
It came out like I think 2010,
I
believe. So I love the movie first of all, but Bill and Ted was like iconic kind of from back then. So we're talking 30 plus years now that you've not seen this movie.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I'm done apologizing.
I expect that you will see this and you will get to me and say, oh, I should have watched this a long time ago.
Yeah. But there's more fun ones as well, like Austin Powers.
Yes, I love that.
And of course your favorite Groundhog Day comes up as a.
I don't put Groundhog Day in there only because I look at time loop stories different than I do time travel stories.
Oh, okay.
And Groundhog Day does come up on time travel movie list, but I don't count it as such because there's a subgenre of just time loop stories where you're repeating the same day.
Yeah.
That to me doesn't count in time travel. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it does to me, but I don't. I count it.
I don't know. It popped up on the list and I thought, well, I guess so. If you keep going back in time every time you wake up in the morning, even if it's only 24 hours. And he's trying to extricate himself from his time travel experience by figuring out whatever he's supposed to figure out. So it's which I kind of, I like that aspect of it. He had to literally change as a human being in order to break out of it. And that's a very different take on the whole thing.
I do love time loop stories. I watch those too.
And I don't know that many of those at all either. So I'm a little again, ignorant as an audience member.
I think that's the grandfather of them all, in time loop stories. As far as I believe, they've done others. Now, I mean, there are a lot of movies now under the same. Peter, there was one with what's his name, Andy Samberg, that came out recently. I think it was Beverly Hills or something. I'm not sure. But
Hmm.
there's several things on Netflix that you could watch. Russian Doll is another one. I don't know if you've seen that.
Oh no, I haven't. Yeah, I've heard about it, but I didn't know it was that kind of a story.
Yeah, that was very good as well.
Yeah.
I love, like I said, I love time loop. And here's some of the other ones that I came across and that I do love. Well, first of all, are we talking Planet of the Apes?
Oh
Time
yeah,
travel?
100%.
Okay.
100%. That's yeah, that ranks up at the top of my list. And I had to see the title to say, well, of course it's a time travel movie. They go into the future.
Right.
They just don't know it. You don't know it until the very end. And that's the thing that makes it such, I think, such an incredibly powerful story is you just you don't know where you are. They don't know where they are or what's going on. And so that reveal at the end, I think, is probably the greatest reveal of almost
Well, that's
any
what I was going
movie
to
ever
ask. Do
made.
you think that's the best ending of any movie ever, or or at
Just
least,
about.
yeah,
Yeah, just about. I mean, it's I can't I'm you, only Rod Serling can come up with a twist like
yeah,
that at the very end with something as simple as that imagery. All of a sudden you're rushing back through the whole thing and realizing, holy cow, you know, they're on Earth, and who knows how much time has gone by, that they traveled before they came back home. It's just chilling. It was chilling. I remember it being so chilling. And and the way there was no music over the end credits,
right.
nothing. It's just silent. You just hear the ocean lapping,
No, I
which
got to say that I don't know. I'd have to look at best endings of movies, but I automatically, you got to think that it's up there
yeah,
as
yeah.
uh, as best movie endings ever.
It
Here's
was
other.
an unintentional time travel movie.
Right,
They didn't
right.
mean to do that. So yeah.
But you still got
Anyway,
to count that movie in this genre, I think.
I think so. Definitely. Yeah.
Here's some of the others that I was looking at, and I think I've seen almost all of them. I don't know if you've seen them. Also, frequently asked questions about time travel. Have you seen that?
I've never heard of it.
It's another British one.
Oh, okay.
Really, I love British comedies.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Another
Definitely.
very funny movie. Um, just fun. And here's some of the others. That Time Crimes. Have you seen that?
No.
That's a Spanish movie. It's this with subtitles. You can see really well. That's not a comedy.
Yeah.
Really well done movie. You see a guy trying to prevent a murder, and he keeps going back, and all the stuff as he's going back, trying to in this time machine. All these pieces start coming together and revealing a much larger picture, and that's
Mm,
what, like, leave you kind of like, your jaw dropping at the end. Another one of those type movies.
wow.
So it's a really well done movie. Another one, Source Code, I would consider time travel. Have you seen
Mm,
that?
no.
No, Jake Gyllenhaal, another one. He's got to go. They keep sending him back. The government keeps sending him back to prevent, like, a bomb from going off on a train.
Mm,
And he's got to keep. See, I don't know if it's time loop. I don't think it's time loop but it's the same day, but they keep sending him there. So I do, but they're sending him back purposely. It's not that he's stuck there. They're sending him back.
hmm
So I think that's good. And another one which was really well done was Looper. Uh,
Now I've heard of that, but no, I've not seen it either.
that's a Bruce Willis one where he goes back. Bruce Willis was in a couple of really good time travel ones, but he goes back to prevent his younger self from doing things, and he fights his younger self.
Ah,
And 12 Monkeys with Bruce Willis. Have you seen that one?
yes. It's been a long time, and I barely remember that movie, but yeah, yeah. Um, because yeah, I'm sorry, who directed it? It was directed by Terry Gilliam, right?
I believe so. Yeah,
Yeah,
really good movie.
because he also did Time Bandits, which is an
Great
all-time
movie. I love
all
Time
time favorite
Bandits.
of mine. Oh man, I fell in love with that movie back in the day and watched it endlessly.
Years. I got to watch that again because I love that movie.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny and
Yeah.
tongue in cheek, and the whole basically the whole denouement at the end is hilarious. It's like, okay, but so much fun, so much fun. And it has a young protagonist also, which I'm always a sucker for.
Well, as an animated Disney one, Meet the Robinsons.
Not seen it.
Oh, you killed me.
You know what? I'm tired of being judged. Okay, I'm tired of being judged.
To me, you've got to see the Disney stuff. That's in my mind. You have to. You're Mr. Disney. Everyone. My kids always refer to you as Mr. Disney. So
okay,
you've got to see Meet the Robinsons.
Meet the Robinsons. Got it. Okay.
Another one. So what are some
on
of
the list?
What are some of your other favorites?
Well, titles that came up that I have not seen. Okay, Flight of the Navigator I have seen. I think it's a beautiful film. Final Countdown I keep meaning to see.
Love that movie.
Yeah, and and
you keep meaning to see, so you've not seen it, right?
No, I have not seen it. And I swear, Jonathan, I'm going to out myself here in front of our audience. I so intended. I had it rented last night, ready to watch, and I fell asleep on, the sofa and pretty much the whole night, and so that didn't happen. But I plan on it. It's on my list, and I think it would be. It sounds deeply fascinating.
It is. It's. I remember at the time it did not do well, and I've seen that so many times too. Just like we were talking about at the beginning of this, the concept, for those who've not seen Final Countdown, U.S. Navy ship gets sent back to the past, World War II, Pearl Harbor. Do they intervene? They know what's going to happen. Do they choose to intervene now? And fascinating movie. I love the movie, and I won't spoil it for you, but it was just one of those things that, again, what do you do?
Yeah, well, that's it. And to me, this is why I wanted to see it before we did the show, is because it sounds like it was the perfect story based upon your entire opening, point about what you like about the time travel idea, struggling with, yes, I definitely would change things, or no, I definitely wouldn't, or the dilemma of do you or don't you, and the ensuing debate that I'm sure happens obviously in the story, but it sounded like a perfect candidate for that. But yeah, no, I need to see it. And there's some other titles that popped up, like Donnie Darko. I've never seen. Again, I've never seen it. Sorry, I'm bringing up movies I haven't seen because I'm just going to continue to be to admit.
I think we've established throughout our Pop Culture Retro, all these episodes, again, and I've said this to you before, you were in the movies, I've seen the movies. I think I've seen many more movies than you. So.
Exactly. Again, which is why our partnership works out so well. But yeah, notable titles, Time After Time.
I enjoyed
with Malcolm McDowell and oh goodness, David, I forgot his name, my favorite villain of all time.
Warner, isn't it?
David Warner, yeah, he was also in Time Bandits. And I think that's a really fun one. Silly premise, but
Jack the Ripper, right.
Yeah, I am like H.G. Wells as an author actually has access to a time machine and uses it to chase Jack the Ripper. It's just a great idea. It really is a great idea. And of course the original Time Machine, the original movie from the 50s. That's a sentimental favorite of mine because I saw that, of course, growing up on television and was just mesmerized by the entire idea. And you think it would have prompted me to read some H.G. Wells, because I mean, between that and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, he had probably one of the most powerful imaginations in literature at that time.
He's got to be one of the kings of science fiction, just because especially considering the time that he wrote them, like you said, really.
Yeah. But I love that. I love that movie, and it does exemplify the literally the light spinning
Right.
machine where you dial in the year you want to go to, and that he
Well,
accidentally goes to the wrong
Timeline was
years.
good too, by the way. Timeline with the Michael Crichton book.
Not seen, not, oh, it's a book. Has it been a movie?
Book movie. It's also a movie. Yeah.
Oh no, I haven't even heard of it. There you go.
But I want to just go back and say, if I went back to back in time, I wouldn't only just do it for moral things. I mean, because I'm talking Back to the Future too, getting that sports book, betting on things. That's what I'm talking about. These I'd be doing.
Well,
I'd be
yeah,
doing that.
I would just go back and buy Apple stock,
Right,
which
exactly.
which I should have done in the beginning, and I knew better, but I didn't. So there it is. But yeah, it's that kind of stuff. It's
Yes, absolutely. That's what I was. I'd be like, I'd be finding my younger self. Hey, kid, here's a tip. Go do this.
exactly.
Get
Yeah.
Bitcoin in the future when it's like,
I
pennies.
know Amazon won't just sell books forever.
Right.
Buy it.
Right, exactly.
I
So,
love that stuff.
All right, so now here's your thing. So, all right, so now let's talk. What is your Mount Rushmore? What is?
Well, okay, I have to put one up on the Mount Rushmore we haven't even talked about yet, and it's screamingly obvious. Okay, my Mount Rushmore is Back to the Future, Planet of the Apes, Star Trek 4,
Okay.
and the Terminator. I mean,
Yeah.
we haven't even gone into the Terminator, and I think that is one of the very best interwoven, complex premised time travel stories I've ever seen. I have it number 2. I said it last because I wanted to reveal it, but it's actually number 2. I think Back to the Future and the Terminator can be all kind of deserve to be side by side, because one is just obviously Back to the Future is so much fun, and it's so funny, and it's still almost the same kind of story in a way, but just the complexity with which James Cameron wrote the tapestry of Terminator, I think, is fantastic. And yet again, I don't think this happens until Terminator 3, when I guess whatever corporation that ends up being the corporation that builds all the robots that ultimately take over, they find their technology because they find the arm, like that arm left in the past that has the chip in it and has the technology, and so they reverse engineer it. And I don't know if I may be mistaken, but I think that was another one of those time loop technology things where they found this, so it enabled them to go ahead and build the machines that ultimately were going to destroy humanity. And I loved that idea in Terminator 3. But just Terminator standalone blew me away when I saw it, and just I've had a great time rewatching it many times since.
I enjoyed that movie quite a bit too. Yeah, we should have mentioned it sooner. So before I go into mine, are there any that we're missing that you wanted to mention?
No, I looking at my list even as I'm staring at the computer, and I think I've covered them all. Yeah.
So now again, all right, I'll preface, because you give the classics. I always go the different route of my much more lists. And it always goes according to how many times I've seen it. That's always the thing.
Hey, that's a great standard. Yeah.
So how many times I've seen the movie, my Mount Rushmore, and it should, and the critics are going to roll their eyes, if they heard. But yes, I do have on my Mount Rushmore, Back to the Future, of course. Midnight in Paris goes on mine. Then I will have Hot Tub Time Machine, because I've seen it
awesome
so many times.
Awesome.
And then I always choose if I'm going to go between Star Trek 4 or Bill and Ted, and I probably will do Bill and Ted. So
there you go. Yeah, makes sense.
So,
well,
anyway,
at least we both have one that we share on our Mount Rushmore. Yeah, there it is.
But I'm going to give you the homework that you're going to have to see Bill and Ted in Hot Tub Time Machine and report back at some point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've got to do it, because
yes,
as often as I find my wife not enjoying the movies that I pick, we're constantly trying to find, okay, what do we want to watch? she, and I always get hit with this about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. What's our movie tonight? And I go, oh my gosh, I've been trying. I don't know. I'm not sure. So now I have a list.
Well,
and I can either
I'm not,
make her laugh or bore her with these.
I'm not suggesting this as with Tia because I don't want her to hate me, because every time I suggest something, you give me the report back that 5-7 minutes in, the phone comes out and she's gone. So I don't recommend that she goes by my suggestions, but we could try.
But
So,
now it's become a game to me. So
Yeah.
this is it's sport. So
so
we
you let me
shall
know,
see.
and you have to give me odds on the over under on when Tia pulls the phone out. So
Yeah, I should set a timer. That's what I should do.
we'll have
Yeah.
bets done. for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, let us know in the comments your thoughts. What are your favorite time travel movies? You agree or disagree? Any that we missed? And when do you think Tia is going to get bored with the hot tub time machine? So just let us know your best guesses. Anyway, this has been Pop Culture Retro. I'm Jonathan Rosen with Ike Eisenmann. And again, thanks for watching, and please subscribe.
Thank you for listening to Pop Culture Retro, where no one was hurt during the making of this podcast.